Hey friend, are you struggling to build emotion and inspiration with your piano sounds? Today we're going to dive into the piano, one of the most important instruments of modern day worship music. Specifically, we're going to take a look at a concept called layering, where you can take various virtual instruments and effects and layer them on top of the piano to create textures, depths, and various components that can really add some life to your piano productions. But first, you're watching Make Worship Songs. My name is Steve. Please subscribe to this channel if you find this kind of content valuable, and we'll be coming out with some more weekly tutorials. All right, let's dive in. All right, so today we're going to be working off a piano track that I recorded earlier. I've recorded this as a virtual instrument using Kontakt 7. Specifically, I'm using the Grandeur Piano VST. This is one of my favorite piano VSTs. I love native instruments. I love the quality of their samples. It just sounds so rich. A couple things I'm doing in here. I did turn off the space because I'm going to create my own reverb later. Turned off just adjust the dynamics a little bit. Did add a little bit of brightness. But this is what the piano sounds like. Let's go ahead and start the intro. Okay, so right out of the gate, we have a great sounding piano. I mean, it's lush, it's full. It was, like I said, recorded really well on the native instrument side. But I think we can definitely take it a step further. As far as like basic processing, I didn't do too much. I took out a little bit of the mid-range that tends to build up in pianos, rolled up the lower end around 80 hertz. Got a little bit of compression happening with 33609, not a lot. And again, just a little more boost on the top range here with an SSL 9K from Plugin Alliance. So to do layering, first and foremost, what you need to do is capture the MIDI data from the piano. So again, I worked off a VST, so I have the MIDI data, but if you don't have the MIDI data, all you have is the stereo piano track. Maybe you recorded the piano live in a studio or somebody sent you the piano track. Don't sweat. Most DAWs today have what's called audio to MIDI. I'm obviously working in Pro Tools, and if you are working in Pro Tools, I can show you really quickly how to capture that MIDI data. So what you're going to do here is create a virtual instrument track, a stereo virtual instrument track. I'm going to name this piano MIDI, can't spell today. And essentially all you're going to do is simply drag and drop the audio file into that virtual instrument track. This pop-up window is going to come up, and it's going to ask you what kind of conversion you want to do. Usually it defaults to automatic. You can do automatic, that's totally fine. 90% of the time it's going to get you where you want to go. I prefer to actually select polyphonic, which we are dealing with a piano instrument. It's polyphonic. You can also choose melodic for like a bass instrument, for example, percussive for drum tracks, that sort of thing. So for polyphonic, you got two options. You got sustain, you got decay. A piano's got a lot of sustain. This is the one I recommend you go with if you're going to use this for a piano instrument. Go ahead and select OK. And there you go. And then after Pro Tools converts the MIDI data, I highly recommend just opening up a stock piano VST and just going through that MIDI file and verifying that Pro Tools track that data correctly. Sometimes the pitch might be off, the velocities may be off, it might be missing a few notes here and there. So I highly recommend just going through it, just double check it, make sure that it imported all the data that you need, all that sort of stuff before you move ahead. The last thing you want to do is layer an instrument that it's not going to match up with your piano. All right, so since I already have the MIDI data, I'm going to go ahead and just deactivate and hide these. We don't need them. Okay, one of the things that I really wanted to add to this piano is a sense of sparkle. You notice that a lot in modern day worship music. You hear a lot of instruments that have a little bit of a sparkle mixed in there, whether it's like a chime, a bell pad, that sort of thing. So I have an instance of Jupiter loaded up from Arturia. They have a great preset called Electronic Dreams. Very cool chime sound. I'm going to go ahead and copy this MIDI data and paste into the track below. And let me go ahead and solo this and show you what it sounds like. Yeah, great sounding patch, great sounding preset. It's definitely adding that nice angelic sparkle that I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and blend this Jupiter sound in with our piano. Start from that intro. Perfect. It's subtle, but it's just enough to add that dimension. It almost adds like a higher octave to the piano part. It's not overpowering. You still get the nice lushness of the piano, but just adding a little bit of dimension. The second thing I want to do is add a pad underneath this. A lot of times in an intro section, you have a lot of pads in worship music. It just kind of adds that vibe, creates a little more of I call it like a nice little warm hug on the track. So I have an instance of CERM pulled up. I'm going to go ahead again and copy this MIDI data down. And I have a preset loaded up. This is a preset we made called Holy Water. And I'm going to go ahead and solo this track and so you can hear what we're working with. It's a very airy pad. It's got a lot of vibe to it. In fact, you can almost make this its own introduction section before the full band or the piano comes in if you really want to add some kind of a vibe and extend that intro out. Might be a little too overpowering where it is now, so let's go ahead and unsolo this and let's mix this to taste. Yeah, it's great. Again, not too overpowering, adds a lot of depth. And remember, this is just the piano. We don't have any other instruments in here right now. We don't have guitars. We don't have any bass parts, no drums. Already, this is nice and lush. It's big. To me, it feels like it's bringing the listener into that experience where they're preparing their mind and their heart to get ready to worship and just get into this experience. And what I'm doing here essentially is routing all three of these layers into a piano bus. So this is just an aux track. Not doing anything crazy with it. I'm running it through another SSL 9K, little top boost, little mid-range, upper mid-range boost, a little dip around the 250 section where pads and pianos tend to kind of build up a lot. No compression. I didn't feel like I needed any. Everything's kind of lush. If it ends up getting a little too overpowering, you can always ride the automation later in the mix stage. The next thing I want to do is bring all that together with some reverb. So I got a Lexicon 480L loaded up from UAD. I'm on the rich piano setting, which is like a mix of halls. I love hall reverbs for piano. I think that it just helps the piano fit nicely, accentuates those harmonics, and this is what it sounds like. Let's go ahead and slowly bring it in. Yeah, I love it sitting right there. I think what's nice about that Jupiter is it's really helping to accentuate that piano run, especially when you start washing in things like reverb and get other instruments in there. It's helping those notes just become a little more pronounced. What's nice about the reverb is it's kind of helping take away that bite as well, so you can have a nice little balance of articulation, sparkle, but nothing that's going to be too abrasive on the ear. All right, so now that we have that all mixed nicely, we have our sounds picked out. The next thing to do is to take a look at the arrangement of the track. Sometimes certain layers will work for certain parts of the song. Like right now, we're just kind of focusing on the intro. I think the layers we have picked out were great, but maybe they won't translate to the verse as well as it does for the intro. Maybe it won't translate well to the pre-chorus as well as it does to the verse, so on and so forth. So let's take a listen to this verse section. We're changing up the piano pattern. We're dropping the piano roll. We're kind of going to more diamond-style chords, big kind of lush parts. This is commonly where the vocals are going to come in with a little more intimacy. Generally, we won't have a lot of instrumentation going on like bass and big guitars in these first parts of the verse. So we don't want anything that's going to be too overpowering. So let's take a listen to what we got. Starting on verse 1. Yeah, right away I'm finding that Juno just a little too distracting. I think it's poking out a little too much. It's kind of taken away from the intimacy, the vibe. Again, great sounding part for the intro. I don't think it's working for the verse. So I'm just gonna go ahead and simply mute it. I don't like to delete things, just in case you want to bring things back in the mix stage for whatever reason. Let's take a listen to that now without the Juno. Much better, much better. I was kind of debating about whether to take that pad out, but what I like what the pad's doing is it's adding this nice roundness. Again, almost like a warm hug. You still got that nice vibe, that space. It's not too distracting. You could automate the volume, in the mix stage to bring that down a little bit to push that piano forward. But I think for the vibe of this particular song, those two pieces work really well together. Now, the nice thing about layering too is you don't have to be married to your sound bank. So, for example, we got these 3 wonderful sounds picked out for this part of the song, but maybe in the chorus we want something a little brighter in the pad. Maybe we want more of a brass sounding pad or a string sounding pad. The possibilities are endless with VSTs, and that's what's kind of nice about it. You can go down a rabbit hole, so be careful. You might want to put some guidelines on yourself and kind of think about what each part needs and why. But don't feel like you're married to anything. You don't have to be committed to a specific sound for the entire track. Again, it's simple to just go through here and mute as needed. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. I mean, I love using layering. I use it in all my productions. If you listen to Top 40 Radio right now and start dissecting a lot of the songs you hear on there, you'll notice that a lot of producers use layering in various stages. You can do this with a lot of different instruments too. You can do this with guitars. You can do it with certain bass tracks. I know some people even do it with drums. They add some tones on the drums. They use drums for triggering to get different kind of effects with MIDI. So feel free to experiment. We're going to be doing a lot more tutorials on this with different instruments, different song styles. This is kind of more of a ballad worship song. We might try a more upbeat percussive song on the next tutorial and kind of show you different things you can do with that. Once again, thank you for watching Make Worship Songs. My name is Steve. If you found this content valuable, please subscribe to the channel. Please like the channel. Leave a comment below, and we'll be back next week with another worship tutorial. All right. God bless. Have a great week.